okay. Not okay. I guess I'm just gonna try to use this and hope it doesn't break. I'm gonna do my very best to answer some of the questions that I have in my Instagram DMs. A lot of these are a little repetitive, I guess. Pig owners all seem to have kind of similar issues, so I won't hopefully have to go through every single one to get everyone's questions answered. If you are one of the people that has left me a question about your pig in my inbox, this is my formal apology for taking so long, and also hopefully my answer. So starting way back at the oldest one, just got an 8-week-old piglet. 2 things I'm struggling with: biting and screaming. I work a regular 8 to 5, so I decided that he's more comfortable being in the bathroom, lots of blankets, toys, water, radio, pee pads, but he seems to hate going in there. So as far as biting goes, especially because this says that you just got the pig and it's only 8 weeks old, that's fairly normal. You can't rush or really put any kind of time limit on when your pig is going to come around and be a well-socialized, friendly, happy pig. They're all different. You're new and scary to them. You know, if it's a new pig, a new relationship, obviously you don't want them biting you. You don't want to encourage that, but it's also still a fragile relationship, so you don't want to too heavily reprimand them at this point in time either. Now, once you feel like you've established a great foundation and relationship with your pig, if the biting is something that's continuing even after they're no longer afraid of you, then it's more of a dominant behavior, an aggressive behavior, and it does need to be corrected. And it's a new environment and a new routine. So your pig is basically like an infant, and they're going to cry through the night sometimes. And being in the bathroom does sound like an ideal situation for the pig. I actually recommend that sometimes. You know, if you can't find a crate big enough or a pen big enough, if they're going to be left alone all day long for school or work or whatever, finding like a bathroom or a laundry room is a great option. It keeps them safe, first of all, where they're not getting into things in the house that could potentially harm them. And it helps reinforce potty training behaviors and just gives them a safe zone, but it's gonna take some getting used to. I would say my go-to trick to calm a pig in a new area is to use a heating blanket. Pigs love to be warm and soothed, and I can't think of a time when that has not cured the screaming. They are social also, so being separated, and probably I'm assuming this is really the first time that the pig has been away from its siblings, its parents, whatever. So they're gonna feel a little alone, and I imagine now and then you're going to hear the screaming just because they want attention and to be interacted with. And so hopefully when you're home, the pig is in there for minimal, short amounts of time. What is the best food that you can find for your pig? What do I suggest? Normally, the easiest option is Sharp's mini pig food. I've talked about that a lot. I do really like that. I see people recommend store-bought, mass-produced is the best way to describe them, pig feeds, and I used to recommend those and use them. I've just noticed a huge difference in the quality of life for my pigs after switching. They're full of a lot of fillers and things like that. I also like to mix that up with a fresh, natural diet. That would be my recommendation at this point in time. Sharp's pig food, Oink Box does have a pig food as well. I haven't used it for as long, but the ingredients look great. And then, yeah, as much fresh food and fresh cooking and things like that as you can provide for your pig. Oh, this person sent me cute pictures of her pig and I'm just seeing them. Oh my gosh, she's adorable. They had a question about their new piglet that wasn't eating much. And this was sent, like 10 weeks ago. So make sure if it's a question that has a time limit and it's urgent, they do say that they have a vet appointment for a few days after this. So that's great. That's exactly what you should do. Make the vet appointment first. And then if it's not right away, or if you're looking for advice in the meantime, reach out to other people. But she says that he's not eating much, some organic baby foods, bananas, watermelon, but won't eat pellets or any real vegetable. She wants to know if that's normal. That is pretty normal. especially if the piglet hasn't been properly introduced to pellets prior to you getting them, which honestly occurs pretty often, especially because people will take piglets from their parents when they're too young and not properly weaned and send them home to owners who are supposed to basically now save a piglet's life, because when they're separated that early, that's what has to be done. This pig is 7 weeks old, so that is a decent weaning age. 8 weeks is better, but between 6 and 8 is usually okay. However, there's still a good chance that the pig was, potentially taken straight from mom, where it wasn't having to eat a lot of pellets on its own yet. And of course, the baby food, the squash and everything like that smells better than pellets do. And it's healthy for them, but you definitely need to make sure that the pig is also getting some kind of grain source. Now with little pigs, and this one's 2 pounds, I don't really go straight to pellets, partially for this reason, but I use like baby rice cereal, oatmeal, brown rice, things like that, and then I'll mix the veggies in with it and I'll warm it all up. So it's more enticing, and slowly I'll start slipping in pellets, the Sharps food, and let it soak for a little bit just to soften it. And I kind of make that transition slowly, sometimes over a few months if the pig is especially small. And that always seems to, be a nice, easy transition for them, keeps them healthy and happy. And then eventually, at an appropriate time and an appropriate size, they can eat just straight, hard pellets or Sharps food or whatever you're giving. Having some trouble potty training. He seems to want to pee where his water bowl is. Tater was notorious for this. And I've experienced this specifically with little boy pigs. Now, it's hard for baby pigs to hold their urine specifically. So if most of the time he is getting at least his poop and some of his urine on the pad, he is learning, he does make that connection, but the process of drinking water can stimulate the urination also. So while he's drinking, he might be having a stream of pee. Honestly, with Tater, I just put a potty pad under the water bowl also, because again, he knew where he was supposed to potty, but he was too little to sufficiently control it. And that's why I always recommend, instead of teaching your pig immediately or trying to teach your pig to exclusively go outside when they potty, that's a lot to ask of a little pig that can't hold it. So I usually suggest at least starting with the pads inside. For me, I have a pad pretty much in every single room of my house, so they have no excuse. If they can't hold it to get from point A all the way to point B, there's a point C right there in the room. Tater has completely stopped. It was just while he was a baby. I'm running into some problems with my pig. She is a year old, always hungry and desperate for food. How should she be eating so she's full and satisfied without her gaining a lot of weight? Hopefully that's roughly the same angle since I can't see it. My memory card was full. I don't remember exactly where I left off, but basically pigs have no self-control at all. They will eat themselves to death, literally. So it's really important for you to be that voice of reason for your pig, even if it means more drama and more stress by denying your pig. They will always be hungry. This is the one stereotype that they absolutely live up to. Always hungry, always desperate for food. I've posted the body score, condition, all of that images, and there's actually a few new ones that I really like as well. So just doing a quick search for that. We'll bring up a few different ones. Print it out if you need to, have it handy. Look at those images, look at your pig. That is really the only way to decide if your individual pig is getting what they need, too much of what they need, too little of what they need, and then you just adjust accordingly. If they are on the heavier scale or approaching the heavy scale, cut back a little bit, do it in small amounts over time, and then obviously in the reverse, if they're underweight, increase their food in small amounts over time. Being proactive is really important here because it's really hard to get weight off of a severely obese pig. They don't really want to be active. So more pig pictures. I love seeing your pig pictures. Aw, she's so sweet. I get so many nice messages too. I don't respond, but I swear I read them and appreciate them. Oh, such a cute pig. Very picky eater. Doesn't want anything but applesauce. Yep. So that's very common for little babies. They want the soft food, the food that tastes good, especially sugary food and fruits. So yeah, mixing it all up, keeping things warm, keeping it softer while they're little. It's a good compromise, I think, where they're still getting the nutrients they need, but also getting it warmed up and soft and the way that they will like it. Rooting. So many people ask me about rooting because pigs love to root, which is why I always suggest the rooting mats and the different rooting toys and things that I put in videos. But a lot of people don't realize that pigs will root on you. And that's what they do with their mother to get milk to come out basically when they're babies, is they root their belly, and moms love it because they love their belly scratched. But on people, and especially as the pig gets bigger and stronger, that constant rooting is painful. You can actually be covered in bruises from it. So it's kind of like a puppy chewing. It's a natural behavior and it shouldn't be punished necessarily, but I like to just divert them from rooting on people. As soon as they start to do it, I basically move them to something that is an appropriate thing to root on. Certainly do not let them do it because then they'll become confused when they get older and they're hurting you and you make them stop, because it's always been okay when they were little. So just take them to their rooting mat, or even like a pillow or stuffed animal or something like that that they can root on instead. Any tips for bathing? I have the whole video about bathing a pig. Now that's for little pigs. Obviously she's teeny tiny in that video and she's much bigger now. I will tell you when they're like medium sized, where it's still easy for me to hold them. A lot of times I will take them into the shower myself and just hold them while they're being washed, because then they feel totally safe. Otherwise, basically the same process applies when they're too big to fit in a sink. I just put them in the tub and I make sure that there is something, I just make sure that there's a towel or a bath mat or something down so it's not slippery. Some people distract them by putting food on the bathtub wall. You can do that. You can sprinkle Cheerios if you want to distract them. It makes it much easier though if you've started this right away when they're little, so they know that it's nothing scary. Trying to do it with a pig that's even 15, 20 pounds plus, for the first time, it's gonna be really challenging because they are so strong and so loud, and so it can be a little traumatic. I suggest starting with very, very little water and just doing like cups poured over them versus like the sprayer or something that's scary. They may not get super clean the first few times, but they'll also learn that it's not a scary process to go through before you like amp it up to pouring water all over them and spraying them down in deep water and things like that. Where can I find real and true pigs? What is the smallest breed? Very common question. I don't have a breeder list. I have some breeders that I know of just because they have huge reputations. They've been around for a long time. But I can't personally vouch for them either because I don't have any pigs from them that I know of. I raised pigs for a couple years ago. And then basically once I realized that there were a lot of pigs out there already and I had started taking in all of the rescue pigs and everything, raising them as fun as it was, as cute as it was definitely not where my passion was at. And so I don't do that anymore for people who ask if I breed pigs myself. Occasionally I have pigs that need to be adopted. If I take in a pregnant one, which happens a lot where I take in pigs from former breeders who are pregnant. So like occasionally, but I don't advertise it at all. Otherwise, yeah, I don't have any breeder list to refer to. There are some resources that have compiled lists of respectable, well-intentioned breeders that you can find. However, in terms of any size guarantees, or what breed is the smallest or anything like that, they vary so much. And so pigs can be siblings and vary 50, 100 pounds. It's crazy what a huge difference there can be between pigs. So generally Julianas are regarded as the smallest breed of pig, and a lot of my personal pigs are at least part Juliana. Just by looking at them, that's the guess. But even Julianas can get to be hundreds of pounds. So keep it in mind. Always say, prepare for a several 100-pound pig. If you couldn't accommodate a pig that big, it's best to not get one, because there's always that potential that they could reach that size and you would end up having to rehome them or completely redoing your life. Now, if you go into it prepared for that, I don't know why everything is blowing up right. Everyone is contacting me. If you go into it prepared for that and the pig ends up being smaller, that's just a little easier. So this is a pig experienced person. It looks like they already have pigs, own pigs, but have taken in a rescue pig. And this one, it sounds like, has had a particularly hard life. Certainly not standard, but this is definitely one of the reasons why I don't discourage or shame people for getting their first pig from a breeder or, you know, a rescue or whatever, where it's a young pig, basically, a piglet. That is a completely different and I feel much easier process than getting a pig that has history. Absolutely, if you are equipped for it and knowledgeable, or you've done your research, you know what you're getting into and you know how to handle it, adopt. Always adopt. We all know how much I am an advocate for adoption and rescuing, but pigs and other animals that are super intelligent like that are a pretty big challenge if you are trying to turn them into a really great family pet. Not all of them, some of them are great and they were raised in a good environment and they'll transition easily, but some of them, you just don't know which you're going to get, because then some of them come from really hard backgrounds and they carry that with them their entire lives, and it's going to be a long road, and potentially they may never fully come around to be the kind of pet you hoped for, I guess. That's why I have pigs that live outside that I have never pet. In 7 or 8 years of us being together, we have our own relationship. I know them in, you know, their own special way, and they like me in their own way, but they're obviously not like the pigs that are in the house, for instance. So yes, and my expectations of them are nothing. As long as they're healthy and happy and living here and being pigs, that's good enough. So that's kind of the mindset you should go into it with. If you really absolutely must have something that is super friendly, can be indoors, you can have that kind of bond with, that relationship with, either work extensively with a great rescue that has pigs that they know are tested and like that, or try to find a piglet. Okay, and now my battery died. I really hope this is aimed at me. Otherwise, you're just gonna be watching a video that, like, I'm not even in. So yeah, hopefully you can see me. I have no idea. He keeps going to the bathroom under our dining table. Put potty pads under there where he keeps going, but now instead of going on the pad, he went right next to it. Sounds like your pig needs to have less space. So yes, I would probably keep your pig in a much smaller space. Sounds like he has too much access to the whole house. Anytime that they're doing this, yeah, limit them to a room or a big pen or whatever. Once they start showing you that they are aware that the pad is where they're supposed to potty, then you can begin slowly enlarging that space to include another room or whatever. If they start going somewhere they're not supposed to, it's back to the start. Obviously, take them out of that space, let them out of the bathroom, whatever space they're in, when you're able to be staring right at them and interacting with them and not distracted by other things, because it only takes 1 second for them to run somewhere and go somewhere they shouldn't. But yes, let them out of it lots and interact with them. But when you are not hands-on, eyes-on, put them back in their little space. If it's their hooves, they're pretty long. We're taking them to the vet to get trimmed. Okay, so that's good. She wouldn't let us try and trim them. Yeah, if they're not used to it, especially at 80 to 100 pounds, have somebody else do it, because that can be dangerous. She's always laying down. The other one's very active. It's harder for her to get up and her belly's pretty low. I'm trying to get her to lose weight. If you have already taken her to have her hooves trimmed, I'm assuming then the vet was also able to kind of evaluate how she looks and hopefully give you this advice too. But if her hooves are trimmed and she's still struggling to move around much, then yes, look at the body scores. If it looks like she's overweight, I always suggest starting by cutting back on whatever the grain source, the carb source basically is in their diet, which for a lot of pigs is pellets. Cut back a little on that. Keep the vegetables, the fresh foods the same. That's obviously not where the majority of the fat content is, but it helps keep them feeling full and like they're still getting the same amount of food, hopefully. And also getting her to use one of those dispensing toys. In particular for her, you might start with the bobbing toy. and then move up to the ball that dispenses treats where she has to get up and get moving. It may be that her joints are sore from being immobile for a while, being overweight, having long hooves. Those things can all just make their body ache where moving around is something they don't want to do. So start slow, but encourage her to get up and move. So yeah, the questions that I'm scrolling through repeats of, so if you're like, hey, that wasn't my message, know that I read your message, but a lot of these are kind of duplicates. The one about where to buy pigs, if I recommend pigs, the one about the behavior issues, biting, screaming, rooting, the potty training, the diet. I would say that those are all the ones that are kind of repeated frequently. So what breed are your pigs? I have no idea. Again, most of them are probably Juliana, but I think they're all mutts. A lot of mini pigs are. At this point especially, there's not really a great clear mini pig breed, really. They're all just kind of small pigs. Seems to shiver a lot. So pigs do get cold really easy, especially young pigs. It's really hard for them to properly regulate their body temperature, and that goes for whether they're hot or cold. The shivering can certainly mean that they're cold, more than likely because you say that you just got her. It's a nervous thing, which is also very common, very normal. She's scared. New environment, new people, away from parents. I think as she adjusts and settles in, you'll notice it decreasing. I'm adopting a pig who's been fed pellets. I want to make their food. Is it okay to switch them right away or ease them into it? I would suggest easing them into it. With any diet change that you want to make, it's important to, go slow so that they don't get an upset stomach. I want to get a pig, but I live with roommates. Would it be okay to keep him or her in my room and be inside most of the day? So people ask me a lot who work or who go to school if it's okay to get a pig, knowing that, it'll probably be at home by itself for that middle part of the day, basically. And the answer to that is yes. Of course, it means, you need to make sure that you are available for the pig when you are home, so in the morning and at night. They are social, and also, just to interact with them. They're going to have needs that you'll have to be willing to meet in your time away from work or school. But during those hours while you're away, just make sure that they have a space that's safe, that's set up for them, that has everything they need, plenty of water, all of that, and ideally some form of stimulation, entertainment, the toys and things to kind of keep them occupied. This specific one though, where the pig would be in your room, as long as it's while you're gone, it's not a problem for the pig to be inside in a room. In fact, I recommend that your pig be limited to a room in the beginning. But when you're home, hopefully you'll be able to give the pig access to the rest of the house and, more importantly, to the outdoors. There's lots of good foraging and nutrients and things that pigs get from the soil and grass and all of that, and they just love it in general. So as long as you're able to accommodate those things. What's the best bath soap for pigs? I have so many that I like at this point. I always just suggest looking for something that is natural ingredients and not drying at all, because they already are so prone to flaky, dry skin. You want something that's really moisturizing. I think that pretty much covers the majority of the questions that I get. Hopefully, if you are struggling with one of these things and watching this video in the future, I answered your question. If not, don't hesitate to send me Instagram messages. I'm going to try to just do this instead, because sitting on my phone and typing out all the little answers, and normally my answers aren't little, I take that back. When I do respond, it's pages. I try to be really thorough, and I think that's where I just get overwhelmed. So this is much easier for me. Hopefully it works for everybody. I want to be helpful. I want to tell you everything I know and help improve your life and your pig's life. Also, don't be afraid to send me cute pictures of your pig, because I love to see them.